Welcome on board the Norwegian Bliss cruise ship cruising from Los Angeles down to Mexico and back. In today's video, I'm going to take you through a complete rundown of everything we did on the cruise in sort of a shortened version, and coming up in the next few weeks here on the channel, you'll be seeing detailed videos about most of what I'm talking about today. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial Travel Guides. I've been making travel videos for over 15 years of popular and not so popular tourist destinations to give you a very honest, unofficial look at what it's like to be there. And I have now cruised with the Norwegian Epic, Jade, Breakaway, and Getaway. This is my first time on the Bliss and also my first time cruising on the Pacific side from California. The Long Beach cruise port actually has two places where you might be boarding your ship. This is important if you're cruising from Long Beach. The Carnival and Princess side is closer to Long Beach, and the side where NCL is cruising from is a little bit further away from downtown Long Beach. It's called San Pedro. And I have to tell you, boarding was not cute. We arrived at the port at our assigned time to find already a very long line that just got longer and longer and longer before it started moving forwards. There's a lot of people here. This is the end of the line now, and it goes all the way down there, turns around, comes back here to where we are, and we still have to go up to that building. This is really taking a while. The last cruise I was on was the Royal Caribbean Utopia of the Seas, a much bigger ship than this with many more passengers, and there was no line outside of the terminal. It went so smooth. This is something totally different. This is a little bit disappointing in a way. I haven't seen a line like this outside of a cruise terminal in a while, actually. I wonder if there's some problem today. And now we have to go through all of this to get into the check-in too. This is, wow, this is different than many other cruise ports that I've been to. Of course, this can always happen if the ship gets in late or if there's other problems. I was not offered any explanation of why it was like this, but my most recent cruise before this was on the Utopia of the Seas, which is literally the second largest cruise ship in the world. So this ship is not as big as that one, and the boarding for the Utopia went so much more smoothly and quickly. So it is possible, but NCL has yet to figure it out for this ship on this sailing leaving from San Pedro. So it's been almost an hour since we got into the line. Now we've got our cards, but we still have to wait in this line. It's been a thing. Not on the ship, not on the ship, on the ship! As usual, the cabins were not available when we first boarded the ship, so we did the things like the muster drill and went to the buffet and walked around to get our bearings. And a couple hours later, we were allowed to go into our club balcony suite. This cabin is something I definitely have a lot to tell you about, so make sure you check back soon for that video. Anyway, so we got back into our club balcony suite a couple hours later. And on the first night, we went to the main dining room, which is something you know Marcus and I don't usually do, but we figured let's try it once. The main dining rooms on board are divided into 3 sections. Savor and Taste are right across from each other, and that is sort of the more relaxed dining location. And then if you want to dress up and feel a little bit fancy, you can go to the Manhattan room, which is at the back of the ship. We enjoyed our dinner in the main dining room. I think it was pretty comparable to the quality that you get in the Royal Caribbean main dining rooms. Nothing special, but also nothing awful. With our package, we were allowed to choose 2 specialty restaurants. I was able to reserve one of them in advance. That was Los Lobos, the Mexican restaurant, and we weren't able to reserve another one in advance for whatever reason, so we did that on board on the first day as well, and decided to go to Teppanyaki, which is what we did on the very next evening, the first sea day of the cruise. Teppanyaki is a show cooking dining event, I guess you can call it, where the food for the entire group is cooked on this big grill right in front of everybody. There's singing, there's jokes. It's kind of like the Disneyland Jungle Cruise of restaurants, in the sense that as you are sitting there, you are also being bombarded with a lot of really cheesy humor. It was plenty of food. It was very tasty and savory. They also had signature cocktails that they were offering that were included in the drink package, which is very nice. And if I had anything bad to say about it, I just would have to say it was very loud. I don't only mean loud just because it was a big venue and there's a lot of people in there laughing and singing and having a good time, but the cook was using his knives and cooking utensils and everything to drum on the grill and on the divider things around the grill. Parts of it were really like painfully loud in my 50-year-old ears. I know I sound like a grumpy old man when I'm talking about it, but yeah, there were a couple moments where I was just like, oh my god, this is so loud. That night, we also got to see one of the signature live shows on board called Icons. This show focuses on the fantastic voices of the onboard ensemble, singing songs like from Lionel Richie, Celine Dion, Adele, Gaga. The show seemed very new and modern, and one interesting thing to compare it to, and I'll be talking a lot more about this in a different video as well, is on the newer Royal Caribbean ships, I feel like the shows are extremely technology focused, and here on board, the shows that we saw were very talent focused, and that's sort of just an interesting thing to note. One of them is going to be right for a certain audience, and the others right for a different audience. We really enjoyed the show, and the people in it were extremely talented. Not easy to sing those Whitney Houston songs, and they did a good job. Our first day on land was in the port of Cabo San Lucas, and there I took the recommendation of one of you out there. Thank you so much, Ed. He suggested we take a stroll through the port over to the sandbar and get a massage. This is a topic I've also discussed here on the channel before, that I don't recommend going to the spas on board cruise ships. Not because they don't give fantastic services and not because they're not beautiful places to hang out, but mostly just because it is so incredibly overpriced, and the people that are doing the work are getting just a very small percent of what you're paying. So if you're gonna get a massage, please just do it on land someplace. Find a massage therapist, find a physical therapy office that offers massages, go to some day spa in your area. I think the least expensive massage here on board is for a full body 50-minute massage, $199. So at the sandbar, we got 90-minute full body massages for $51 US. 90 minutes, $51. That is an unbeatable price, and this massage was very good. And I mean, honestly, for $51, even if it was only average, I would have still been really happy, but it was good. The sandbar isn't necessarily for everyone. There isn't a lot of privacy. What it is this sort of multi-level, I don't want to call it a shack, but it's a multi-level wooden structure on the beach, and on each of the floors there are several beds just kind of out in the open. So you do get to change into the towel in private, but then when you go out to the bed and lay down, and when you're flipping over and getting up to leave, there are other people laying all around you in a way. And yeah, if you're a little bit shy, this might not be the right place for you. Also, it is in the open air, and you can hear the music coming from the club next door. You can hear people laughing and having fun. So it's not like a romantic spa experience in a way, but it is cool to be there on the beach in the fresh air. You can also hear the waves, and the massage and the price were very good. After that, we walked back and had a drink and a snack at one of the really touristy places in the harbor. It was only average, but the price was also okay. I think Marcus had 2 beers and I had a cocktail. He had some shrimps something and I had some nachos something. And it didn't even cost us, I think, like $40. So that was only average, but the price was also okay. And as the sun was setting, we took the tender boats back over to the Bliss. It was a beautiful sunset. It was very peaceful. But once we got back onto the ship and sailed away, something exciting happened. I've never seen this happen like this before. A passenger had to be evacuated, and they sent out a tourist boat to pick them up. So this boat had gurney on it. I think probably some medical professionals already on board.
and then they had to line up with the Bliss to extend a dock or a jetty from the one ship to the other. Then the people with the gurney came onto the Bliss, got the passenger, went back onto their ship, and then set off back into the port. I don't know what happened with this person, but of course we hope they're okay.
Our second day on board was in Mazatlan. This was a place that some people recommended we stay on the ship. They said it feels sketchy there, there's a lot of crime, and I have to tell you, didn't feel like that to us at all, but that doesn't mean that your experience there might have been different. If you want to do a self-guided tour of Mazatlan, you have to take the tram from the ship to the exit of the cruise port. When you get there, there's a little village that they've set up, so if you just want to get off the ship for a little bit, you can go to the village and have a drink there, do some shopping, and then just take the tram back. And if you want to walk into the center of the old city, you can follow the Blue Line. This is something that they've set up for tourists. It's very easy. You just follow the Blue Line.
Kind of like following the yellow brick road.
And it will take you to a center plaza. From there, you can visit the cathedral, you can walk to the beach. There are restaurants and bars all over the place. We continued walking to the beach. We saw the high divers. We stopped for a soft drink at this place. And also, I mean, these were gigantic drinks, and if I compare this to what it's like to have a drink at some place with a view of the beach in Miami Beach, these two drinks would have probably cost us like $18 to $25, and here it didn't even cost us $10. So Mazatlan, as far as the food and drink prices go, very inexpensive. From there, we did walk to the cathedral to check it out. It was beautiful inside. I wasn't expecting it to be that ornate and pretty. And then we went and had some lunch at a great restaurant, kind of off the beaten path. Had a great talk with the owner and with the waiter. They were very personable, very friendly. Their food was fresh and good, and I would recommend going there, and I will go back if I have the chance. And when all that was done, we followed the Blue Line back to the port, took the tram back to the ship, and that was our day in Mazatlan. The next day, we were in Puerto Vallarta, also a very popular place for tourists from North America, I think. And just bottom line, we loved it there. We think we're gonna start looking at ways to just go on a week-long stay there. If you have any recommendations, let me know. And in Puerto Vallarta, we booked an external excursion to do an ATV tour through the jungle, including swimming in a waterfall and tequila tasting. So of course, when you are in a port, especially if it's a sort of exotic port, if it's someplace that you are not familiar with and you want to do something outside of the ship that's more than just walk around the general area, there are many advantages to booking from the cruise ship. One of the most important ones is being that if you're late, the ship will wait for you. And spoiler alert, we left 2 people behind in Puerto Vallarta. I'll be talking about that in a minute. But a lot of times the cruise-sponsored excursions are also more expensive, and sometimes much more expensive than what it would cost to sort of just do the same thing on your own without the ship. That is why I went to TripAdvisor and looked at the top-rated activities for people in Puerto Vallarta. This was one of them, and it just looked like so much fun. Marcus and I have never done anything like this before, and I thought,
that's what I want to do.
So after we left the ship in the morning, we took the little tram to the exit of the cruise port. From there, we walked through this little shopping area that they also have built up. Outside this shopping area are these taxi buses where several people all ride together to the same destination or similar destinations. And in Puerto Vallarta, these trips cost $5 a person. I'm not sure how many pesos it is. In Mazatlan, in Puerto Vallarta, and in Cabo San Lucas, everywhere took credit cards, which we tried to use as much as possible, and where we couldn't pay with a credit card, we paid with our US dollars. It was a really fantastic, adventurous, and not dangerous experience that unfortunately I can't show you a lot of because they were really strict about not letting us take pictures or videos. The reasons that they gave were, they said that we're going through neighborhoods and streets and villages and town areas where people just don't like to be disturbed and they don't want to be filmed or have their houses filmed, which sounds reasonable, but somebody from the company also was driving with us and taking pictures of us the whole time and then offered to sell us the pictures at the end. So I think it's kind of a combination of both of those. And the reason I say that this was kind of dangerous is because, first of all, the roads are not all very smooth and paved. Some of them are cobblestone streets. Some of them are just plain dirt roads. And I think it's really hard to flip a four-wheeler, but at times I felt like it was just a little bit out of control and I needed to slow way down to be able to steer again. And these mountain roads, there's no like railing on the side. If you mess up, you're literally flying over the side down the mountain. So this was not like a cookie cutter clean Disneyland experience. This was a real adventure where you had to pay attention and be responsible for yourself. What a concept, right? So this whole thing included the ATV driving, swimming in the waterfall, a tequila tasting. We had lunch at the tequila tasting place, which cost a little bit extra. And it went from 10 until shortly past 1. And it didn't even cost us $80, 80 US dollars a person to do this. This is the company we used. I can highly recommend them. And if you do go there and book it, please tell them that Morgan, the guy from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides YouTube channel, sent you there. Maybe next time they'll let me take videos, because I would love to do it again. After we got back into the town from where the tour ended, it was about a 25-minute walk to the city's popular Zona Romantica area. This is an area with a large concentration of bars and restaurants and a beach. And I'm not sure, but I think there's a lot of gay people there. Another thing that's offered, it seemed like on every corner in the Zona Romantica, are massages. So probably also a great place to get a relatively inexpensive massage.
We didn't get a massage, but we found a fun place called the Margarita Grill.
This place had a really great vibe and also great food, very large drinks. This was the small size of the drink, and our thing of guacamole and nachos and these two drinks also didn't even cost $40. We could have taken a taxi or one of the taxi buses back to the cruise port, but I wanted to try out if Uber worked in Puerto Vallarta. The answer is yes. We ordered an Uber, came to pick us up, took us back to the port, and it cost exactly as much as it would have cost to take one of the group vans, so also a very welcome option. We got back to the port at about a half an hour before all aboard time, and with going through security and getting on the tram to take us back over to our side of the pier, we ended up getting back on board really just shortly before all aboard time. We came back up to the cabin, freshened up a little bit, and then went to the promenade deck just to see, what's going on outside. Is anybody going to show up late? Several groups of people did come back late, and then there was a long break where nothing happened before they started announcing names. Originally, they announced 4 people's names, and after that happened, 2 people showed up, which meant there were only 2 people left. Somebody's knocking on the door. Oh my gosh, you guys. My cabin steward is not having a good day. I honestly can't remember what I was just talking about specifically before he knocked on the door, but Puerto Vallarta. So, yes, they had announced 4 names. After this break of nothing happening, 2 people came back, and then I think they called out 2 more names 2 more times, and these people just didn't show up. And it was already an hour after all aboard time and a half an hour after sail away time. And then we started sailing away when they came around the corner on this golf cart, and they literally got to watch the ship sail away without them. I've been on a lot of cruises, and I don't know if I've been on a cruise where people have gotten left behind before, but if it did happen, I know for sure that I never actually saw it happen, and this time is the first time, and honestly, hopefully the only time, I ever see people get left behind on the dock. These people were not cutting it close, they were really late.
That evening, we enjoyed the onboard entertainment, including going to the Levity Comedy Club, which is included in the price of the cruise. And later that night, we went to the Glow Party up on the pool deck. This is a dance party that happens on, I think, every NCL cruise, and it was cool to have it out in the open air, but I felt like the atmosphere kind of just all gravitated to one corner of the pool deck, and then there was all this open space around where there was nothing happening, and I felt like that kind of detracted from the fun dance club atmosphere. I just felt like it would have been way more fun if it was in a smaller space. It's like when you have a party and everybody hangs out in the kitchen. It's somehow more fun when there isn't a ton of open space around you. Does that make sense?
One cool thing about it is if you get there early, you can get like glowy face paint, which is a lot of fun. And so if you're going on an NCL cruise, try to bring something white or something with a lot of neon colors, because then you sort of stand out at this party, and it was a lot of fun.
We're just getting up on our first of the final 2 sea days, and look at what we found. I mean, the ship is moving a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's this bad. So maybe they're saying that it's coming up.
Yesterday was another sea day, and yesterday was the day that we got to go to the Los Lobos Mexican restaurant, and this is like the 4th day in a row that we've had Mexican food. And you know, I love Mexican food, but with anything, even if it's your favorite, something too much of a good thing is usually not a good thing, and we had great food in the restaurant, although the service was a little bit lacking. And I was talking with a woman in the theater while we were waiting for Jersey Boys to begin last night. She mostly cruises with Princess out of Los Angeles because she only lives 30 minutes from the cruise port. And she said that she wanted to give NCL a try, and she noticed, because she was going to, I think, all of the specialty restaurants, that the service in the specialty restaurants here on board, she said, was pretty lacking. Unfortunately, that's also what we experienced. Food was good, and it wasn't that the people working there were slow or incompetent. It honestly just seemed to us like they had way too much to do. There wasn't enough servers to serve everybody in the restaurant. At a restaurant on land, at least when I was waiting tables, which is also something I talk about in the new book, you might have 4, 5, maybe 6 tables to serve in a restaurant. And I think they had like 12 or something. They seemed like at the limit of what was possible for one person. So like the people next to us, they had their main courses and they didn't even have any drinks on their table yet. And we hadn't finished our appetizer and they had already brought our main course. These are just tiny first world problems, not huge complaints. But when you consider that these specialty restaurants cost extra money on top of what you've already paid, I think a lot of people expect a certain level of service and quality, and I'm repeating myself again, the quality of the food was definitely at the level I would expect. The quality of the service, unfortunately, was not, but not for lack of them trying, I guess is a good way to say it. Last night we also went to see Jersey Boys, which is a Broadway musical in a somewhat shortened version, so it's an hour 45 minutes played straight through with no intermission, and it was really, really good. And Jersey Boys was actually before we went to dinner, and we had to leave early to get to our dinner reservation. We went back to the second show to watch the second half again so we could see how it ended. It's a cool story, and the way that they do it here in this sort of shortened version on a somewhat smaller set was really enjoyable, very high level, extremely talented actors and musicians. It was the same level as you would see on Broadway or in the West End or in the Broadway in Germany scene as well. Mwah. Fantastic. And you know what? I think if they were on again tonight, I probably would go see it again. Another thing we did was the go-kart track on board. This is like a signature experience that, unfortunately, if you ask me, is an upcharge. It's never free, even on days while you're in port. So it costs $15 for every time you want to do it. Marcus and I were just walking around on deck one evening and decided, hey, there's no line, let's do it now. And it was a lot of fun. These karts are so much faster than it looks like. Like when you watch it, you think, okay, that's kind of slow. But then when you're driving them, it seems fast. It was a lot of fun. And I might want to do it again, but $15, that's a lot. There are go-kart tracks on land that cost a lot less than $15. It's kind of like the whole massage thing, isn't it? And now we're in the middle of our second sea day, and tomorrow we arrive back in San Pedro, and that's the cruise. Like I said, there will be detailed videos about a lot of what I just talked about coming up, a comparison of NCL to Royal Caribbean, a tour of this cabin, and talking more about what it means to have a club suite, and more, so make sure you're subscribed and check back soon. I'm Morgan from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides. Bye-bye.